Welcome back to the news today. This is One-on-One. One of the toughest jobs in Israeli public service is the spokesman of the Israeli Foreign Office, explaining to the world the government's stance on the peace process and military operations. Of course, it's not a small task. Emmanuel Nahshon has been serving in the Israeli Foreign Ministry for 20 years in a number of different roles, among them as Israel's ambassador in Berlin. And I'm having him tonight. Thank you very, very much for coming to the studio and being with us and giving us this interview. And Mazel Tov.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It is indeed one of the toughest jobs, but I think that it's one of the most interesting, and I'm very eager to do it.
And I think that it's like you said, it's a tough job, especially you're entering in a really specific time. A lot of people are talking about the fact that Operation Protective Edge was maybe a turning point for Israel. And if we're looking at it from one perspective, that was maybe one of the single operations that the entire world basically supported Israel and gave Israel an unprecedented support. And from another side, there was a lot of criticism, and with this criticism, you will need every day to handle and to explain. How do you explain what Israel is doing in the West Bank, what Israel is doing in the Gaza Strip? How come Israel decided to go to war with Hamas, but on the same hand, at the end of this operation, to keep Hamas in the Gaza Strip and to keep Hamas controlling the Gaza Strip?
Well, those are indeed tough questions. And I think that one needs to put some order into the whole issue. The most important thing to know and to remember is that Israel is committed to peace. We have always been committed to peace, and we are committed to a two-state solution based on direct negotiations with the Palestinian Authority. Not with Hamas, because Hamas wants to destroy the state of Israel. Hamas is illegitimate. Hamas is a terror organization who started deliberately shooting rockets at the state of Israel after having murdered 3 young teenagers in the West Bank. With the Palestinian Authority, namely with President Abbas, the moment he disengages from his national unity government with Hamas, it is absolutely possible to talk. And on the contrary, we are very interested in those talks. We believe that they are important for the future of the Palestinians, and they are equally important for the future of the Israelis and the state of Israel.
So I will ask you something that was asked a number of times to the chief negotiator from the Palestinian side, Mr. Saib Arikat, Dr. Saib Arikat. A question that was asked each and every day by Israel to him: what about Gaza? What about the Gaza Strip? How we're going to solve the Gaza Strip? How we're going to solve this problem? And when the Palestinian Authority decided to solve it in a way that they tried to create some kind of a unity government, if we can call it a unity government, Israel came and said, well, Gaza, we cannot cope with this unity government because you are right now cooperating with Hamas. But Israel kept Hamas at the end of Operation Protective Edge. It was, in one way or another, Israel benefits. It works in Israel benefits that Hamas is controlling the Gaza Strip. How do you explain this?
Well, I'm not sure that I can entirely agree with you. If you recall, the Gaza Strip was one of the first territories which was handed over to the Palestinian Authority. Some years later, to Yasser Arafat. Some years later, Ariel Sharon took the unilateral decision to remove all the settlements from the Gaza Strip. Starting that moment, the Gaza Strip was totally free of Israeli presence. Hamas took over violently in 2007. This was a military coup, and they killed a lot of Fatah people. They were extremely cruel. It was almost a civil war, and Hamas took over. It is a dictatorship. It is a dictatorship motivated by the worst kind of Islamic radical ideology. They pretend to be in favor of the Palestinian people. They pretend to be freedom fighters, whereas in fact, they want to impose the Sharia, they want to impose Islamic law. If Hamas, if Islamic extremism was a family, I I would say that ISIS and Hamas are brothers. They may not be entirely similar, but they originate from the same tree, from the same way of life, from the same way of thinking. They are extremely dangerous, by the way, not only for Israel, also for the Palestinians themselves.
But you know what people will say, better the devil you know. Better to leave Hamas there than that ISIS will control Gaza or will, let's say, take control on the Gaza Strip and start being something that Israel maybe doesn't want to deal with.
Well, there is another scenario which is not to be excluded. I think that the inhabitants of Gaza have seen that Hamas has brought them nowhere, that it's destruction, it's pain, and this is bad and useless. I think that they can see beyond the rhetorics of Hamas that actually this war against Israel has brought only misery to the Palestinians living in Gaza. If we reach an agreement in which the Palestinian Authority will play an important role in the reconstruction of Gaza, in policing and controlling, we may see a total change in the situation. We may see the people of Gaza saying, okay, we had some years of Hamas, they took over violently, we understood that they are not really in favor of the Palestinians, and now we would like to try something else. At the end of the day, as I said earlier, we are talking about peace. The situation in Gaza is complex because Gaza is a small territory and highly populated. In theory, if only things were moving in the right direction, Gaza could be the Singapore of the Middle East instead of being the Somalia of the Middle East.
So I'm going to ask you, we just spoke before and you told me I speak several languages, and I speak German and I speak Spanish, and we can do this in Hebrew and in English. And you know, when you speak a language, a specific language, you know also the culture, you understand the people that you're speaking and you understand the music that they're talking in. One of the biggest problems that Israel is facing right now, that it doesn't understand Arabic. It seems that just yesterday, Mr. Yaakov Peri, Minister of Science, just sat here and said there is a problem when lawyers are going to speak with the Palestinians and they talk with them as lawyers and not in the same level. They don't understand the language. They don't understand how to speak with them. They don't understand the culture. And this is a problem because what you're saying can convince me, can convince our viewers, can convince people that understand what we're talking about. But when you are going to someone who doesn't understand what you want and you don't understand his language, this is a very, very big problem.
I totally agree with you. You are absolutely right in your analysis, and I would take it even further. I would say that one of the major problems now, if not the major problem between Israelis of goodwill and Palestinians of goodwill, is lack of trust. And lack of trust, which is based also on lack of understanding, which is based on lack of contact. If only we could meet more and understand that at the end of the day, we are human beings and we share the same worries and we care for our families and our children and we would like to see a better future, I think that it would make things a little bit easier. I'm not naive. I'm not naive, and I know that this is not going to solve the core issues, but at least it will enable for a better and deeper dialogue.
So I will take you somewhere else. I will take you to the United States. A lot of criticism about the foreign policy of the President of the United States, Barack Obama, that he couldn't handle what these two words, foreign policy. Is Israel handling its foreign policy in a good way? Should we criticize the United States about its foreign policy when our foreign policy is not that?
We live in the most complex region in the world. The changes taking place in the Middle East on a daily and weekly basis are deeper than changes which may take place during a whole century in another place. We have to be extremely cautious. We have to be cautious and dynamic. And we have to steer this little ship, Israel, in waters which are the stormiest ever. Nobody knows what is going to happen in the Middle East. And I would rather, as President Roosevelt said a long time ago, walk softly and carry a big stick.
Oh, I will finish with that. Nahshon, Mr. Emmanuel Nahshon, thank you very, very much and good luck.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, our viewers, for being with us tonight. Have a great night.